we go. Right, ringing him now. Just waiting for him to pick up. Hi, John. You okay?
Yeah, man.
Cool. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Just let you know, you're on with myself, Ray, and my co-host Patrick.
Hey, thanks a lot for coming on, John.
Yeah, of course, Patrick.
Right, we'll just jump straight in then. So, how's things with you, and how's your training going in preparation for your next fight?
Oh, it's going fantastic, man. I training 3 times a day, real hard. I got a new sponsor for some hyperbaric therapy. It's a new type of therapy where it induces more oxygen in your body, and I feel real good. I used to lag. 3 days used to really work hard on me, but now I feel great. Like I can kill it all day.
Well, before obviously it is a big fight coming up, and we're certainly gonna get to that. But before we talk about your next opponent, let's talk a little bit about you and what got you into the sport. So I just want to first of all say you've obviously been fighting since 2007, professionally anyway. So what got you into mixed martial arts?
I started actually like about 2000, 5, maybe 6, probably 2005. I just graduated high school. All I was doing was lifting weights. Real boring, I didn't have anything going for me. I thought I was going to go to college and play soccer. That just didn't happen. And I had a friend that used to work out with me, and he knew I wrestled. And he's like, "Hey, man, you want to help me with my wrestling because I fight?" I was like, you do what? Because I've watched UFC all throughout junior high and high school, and I love the sport, but I didn't know how to get into it. Like, I thought it was like the NFL. People got drafted somehow. Like, I really had no idea how to even be a part of it. And he's like, "No, man, I'm an amateur fighter. You got to build up your amateur ranks." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And I just started training with him, and then he brought me to Dennis Hallman's gym, and 3 months in, he asked me if I wanted to fight. And I'd never been in a fight in my life. My very first fight was inside the cage. And I told him, yeah, I've never fought before, so I was like, what a life experience. I thought I was ready, and just banged it out my first fight, and I've been in love with it ever since.
How did your first fight go, John?
It lasted like 50 seconds. I TKO'd the kid. I just closed my eyes, threw a 1-2, the kid fell down, and I jumped on top of him.
How did you actually feel then going into that fight? Were you quite nervous, or?
Pretty nervous. I'd say my first couple fights, I was actually really nervous before all my fights. But, I was fighting every other weekend, and it finally became like I was used to that competition feel, and I stopped being nervous. Like, real heavy nervous. I always get nervous before a fight. Everyone really should. If you say you don't, you're a liar. But, it almost feels like normal for me now to be in a cage, whereas then, like, until that day that cage door closed, I was, pretty darn nervous, like shit in my pants.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know it's something I wouldn't be able to do personally. What was your amateur record like?
I was 14-1.
And you were fighting. You say you were fighting quite a lot amateur. How long did it take you to go from amateur to professional then?
About 2 years. I was fighting every other weekend, like I said, and then it got harder to find opponents every other weekend, and then I fought every 3 months, and then the higher my amateur ranking got, it was even harder to find more opponents, and I fought every 6 months, and then I had two amateur fights, one in Oregon and one up here, and then my coach said, "There's no one else to fight. You're ready to go pro." And I was like, "Cool, I'm ready." And that was it. It only took 2 years.
Was it exciting when your coach said to you, "Ready to go professional"?
Yeah, well, I kind of was bugging him about it, because obviously we cross-trained with pros when I was an amateur, and I was beating our pros in practice, and I'm like, kind of like, "Hey, D, I'm beating up these guys who are pro right now. Can I go pro?" And he's like, "No, man, I want you to have 2 more fights." And I was like, "No problem. I'll get the 2 fights." And what we tried was I actually tried to fight Demetrius Johnson, because he's from the Northwest, but that never worked out. I fought his teammate, and then that was my second to last amateur, and then I fought down in Oregon for my last amateur fight.
Now, obviously, before you joined the UFC, you were 6-1. So pre-UFC, what have you got a favourite victory or a favourite fight?
Pre-UFC,
yeah.
I'd say my first professional fight, because I actually took a guy with a lot of experience. He was like 5-4 for my first fight, and it isn't showing his record, but he was 5-4. And my teammate Brian Caraway was supposed to fight him, but he pulled out of the fight for whatever reason, and I took the fight. And that was my first fight, and that was his like ninth pro fight, and I went in there and beat him. It was the first time I went into the second round with somebody, so I mean I had to fight hard, and it was an exciting fight. So I'd say that was the best fight, my very first pro fight.
And obviously you like before UFC you had a very good record. You're 6-1, and then you get picked up by the UFC. How did that come about, and how did that feel getting picked up so soon in your professional career?
Well, we started getting calls from Shelby for the WEC, to have me try to get in the WEC, but I didn't have any footage of my fights, and they kind of wanted to have some footage, so they told me just keep winning, try to record them, and send them in. So they kind of already knew about me through Dennis and just my fights, and then obviously the Ultimate Fighter came, and a couple thousand people tried out, and I don't know why they picked me. I didn't think I was like too outgoing. I wasn't crazy. I'm not an asshole. I'm not a jerk. I was just a super nice guy, and they picked me. And, I think I showed on the show that, I'm a skilled fighter and I like to fight. And they just gave me one more chance against Dustin Peg in that finale, and I think that solidified myself in the UFC.
How did it feel with your fight against Dustin Peg? 'Cause, I mean, that fight just literally it was all you, wasn't it? I mean, Dustin Peg is a good fighter, but he just never got a chance to get going in that fight because you just shut him down.
Yeah, I had such good mental strength that fight. I went in there saying like, I'm going to go balls to the wall because I thought it was my only opportunity to just show myself, and, I had to win. I wasn't going to try to pace myself. I was just going to go out there and go hard with him. And the very first exchange we had with each other, we both closed the distance and were in each other's pockets, and we both threw and we both hit each other. And like, when he hit me, it didn't hurt. It didn't like phase me at all. And I just was right there. I went to like some kind of killer mode. Like, this guy can't hurt me. And that's why I kept going forward and forward and forward, cause I wasn't worried about him hurting me, and on the show, he's been shown to be, and in his past record, he's shown to be a devastating striker. But like, I just had no fear for some reason in that fight. And I think that's what made the difference,
Did you get on with Dustin on the show?
Oh yeah, we were really cordial, really nice to each other. I think he's a great guy. We still talk all the time on Twitter and stuff. I mean, in this sport, I think you're going to end up fighting your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As it goes, especially if you want to fight high level guys and if you want to cross train with people. Eventually, you're going to fight the people that you train with. It is what it is. But all it is a fight. After the fight, we'll grab a beer and hang out.
With going back to the Ultimate Fighter, was there anybody in there that you didn't really get on with, or did you get on with everybody?
No, I got along with everybody. There was a couple times my friend Stephen Bass would like just say some things that would make us all go like, what the fuck's he talking about? Or why is he even saying that? But I mean, there's been no beef. I think we were all pretty professional that season, cause we all had a goal, we all had a hard time either cutting weight, making weight, being littler guys. And, it's just really professional people, and we just knew that one goal was to fight and win.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the Ultimate Fighter experience?
I did. I had an amazing time. I thought it was like, because I love to camp and hunt and fish, and I just took it as like an extended vacation. It was the first time I got to train like a professional. I'd only been training once a day after work. I was working full-time construction, so like the opportunity to just be able to sleep in, train twice, 3 times a day was amazing to me. Like, I was so stoked every day for it. It was a great experience, and I had free food, whatever I wanted. They got it for us. Like, that was pretty amazing to me.
And how did you find the coaches on Ultimate Fighter?
I like Tiki, Razor, Bisping. They're super intelligent guys. They're really, they've been in the sport a long time and they really understand the sport. It was really lackadaisical because I feel like it was Bisping's it was his 3rd time on the show, right? So he's kind of doing it more as a favor for Dana, and he was really over it. You know what I mean? He won his season, he coached the next season, and he was kind of over the Ultimate Fighter experience, and we didn't really feel like he wanted to be there. Oh. He wanted us to win, and he wanted to do everything he could to help us win, but as far as practices go, they were late every day. We swore they were either drunk or hungover every day. But I mean, we understood, and we came in there pretty prepared. In a 6-week period, you can only advance so much as a martial artist, and you don't want to overload people. So we kept it pretty basic, just how to win the fight. You know, if we're on our back, how to get up, kind of thing. Not like showing a bunch of crazy moves, doing a bunch of different crazy techniques. It was just like basic, how to win a fight, which I thought was fine, and more than good enough for me.
Did you have much to do with the other coaching team, or was it all just do your own coaching team?
They came over to the house a couple times. They were pretty cool. I mean, our team was way funnier. Bisping and all them were hilarious. Like, they were just crack ups. Whereas, like, Miller was actually really serious, and so were his coaches. Like, there wasn't a lot of, I don't know, they just seemed too serious the whole time. You know, they tried to stay relaxed and have fun, but like, yeah, it was all business for them.
You'd have thought it'd be the other way around, wouldn't you? Because obviously Miller's known for being quite flamboyant, especially after his bully beatdown and stuff like that. You would have thought it'd be the other way around, but obviously it wasn't the case.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, I've been watching Bully beatdown, and I've always liked Mayhem and his antics and stuff. And then he gets on the show, man, and like Bisping was just ripping him a new ass, like was dogging on him all the time. And Miller had no good comebacks. Some of the pranks you didn't even get to see on the show, like Bisping just killed Miller. Miller's pranks were like dumb. It was really surprising how how good Bisping's pranks were and jokes were.
Were you surprised at their fight as well in the finale?
No, I wasn't at all. I knew Miller was super tough and he was an underrated guy, but Bisping is a top level fighter. Like he's top 5 at all times. Like, you know, I think they really gave Miller a chance by fighting such a high level guy, you know, for Miller to build a name. I knew Bisping was going to control it. Bisping has amazing cardio. He's a big middleweight, and you know, he's real good. He's shown like he had like 14 fights in the UFC or something like that. So I wasn't surprised at all. I was kind of rooting for Mayhem because I just like him. I wanted a better fight, but I knew Bisping was going to win for sure.
I know Patrick's eager to jump in, but I just want to ask you about one more subject before I pass you over. Obviously, your last fight was one of the worst stoppages, I think. People were raving about it. It was unbelievable because we could see that the armbar was on, but we could clearly see you did not tap. And obviously the referee jumped in. Maybe it's been hyped up a little bit as well because it was a female referee. But how did you feel about the fight?
Oh man, you know, I rewatched it, and even during the fight, I felt I was controlling every aspect of it. I mean, Goito is I believe he's a Mexican kickboxing champion, you know, and that didn't affect me. I felt I was outstriking him. I closed the distance. I was working the cage better. You know, I felt I landed more strikes on the feet, even though it didn't stay very long on the feet. Like, he threw a couple wild punches, but I tagged him right back with solid punches. Then I took him down with a great takedown. I took his back. You know, he used good cage defense, so I couldn't completely secure his back. But then I knew as soon as he got in my guard, because I watched previous tapes, that he likes to engage. And when people engage on me, that's when I catch him. And, you know, I got him in that slick triangle, and, you know, yeah, I tried to, and the thing is, I tried to finish that triangle, so I got myself into a position that he could hit me. But I mean, they didn't really devastate me or affect me in any way. They just looked devastating because they gave me the black eye, but like they didn't affect me in any way, you know. And then I tried to finish that armbar because I knew time was getting short, you know. And I hyperextended his arm, but he's so tough. Like I saw his arm bend, I heard a little pop, and he didn't care. He rolled right out of it and got in good top position. I mean, that was the only time he was winning the fight, was when I tried for the armbar, and then he got on top of me, and then you know, then he got that armbar. And I tell people that all the time whenever they ask me about this, like, that shit was tight. He had it real hard. But as soon as he went to his belly, I was free. I was completely out of the armbar because he couldn't extend my arm anymore. If you watch the tape, you can see when he's on his hip, he's completely able to hyperextend and use his hips and range of motion a lot better. But as soon as I started rotating my shoulder and he put his belly to the mat, he had nowhere to go. It's just physics. He can't drive his hip through the mat. So I was out. I mean, that's something we drill every day. Every practice at Dennis's, we do an armbar reverse. And that's what I was in the middle of doing, you know, and I was dumbfounded. I didn't yell. I didn't tap. I didn't do anything. And she came in and said, I tap, you know. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's a mistake. She probably thought I was in danger of hurting my arm, but I mean, it should be at the fighter's discretion. I mean, that's why there's the rule of tapping out, you know, physically or verbally. And I didn't do either. So I was definitely disappointed because, I mean, I figured me and Goito were putting on a good fight, and we could have obviously kept going because it would have gone into the second, possibly third round. You know, so it's more like she took the experience away from the fans. You know, that's what frustrated me too, that there was no true finish in the fight. That's what makes it the hardest.
Yeah.
There's no winner in that fight.
No, there wasn't. I mean, I was watching the fight live. Like you say, it was a crazy fight. It was such a good fight, and it was such a shame it ended like that. What was did you get any feedback from the fight from the UFC?
Not too much. I mean, I got that tweet from Dana. Sean Shelby came up to me and apologized profusely. So I mean, it was cool. Like, I almost had tears in my eye when I saw Dana saying that was bullshit and he's gonna give me my win bonus because, like, everyone knows who Dana White is. He is the UFC. You know what I mean? And to have that guy have your back, it felt pretty cool. It felt pretty amazing.
It shows you that you're obviously doing something right then, because he wouldn't be doing
Yeah.
like we all know with Dana. If he doesn't like someone, he's not afraid to hide it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And he appreciates people that fight. And I think that's one of my strong points is I come to fight. Win or lose, I'm gonna go hard, and I think he appreciates that.
Yeah, I think he does as well. Well, I know Patrick's eager to jump in, so I'm going to let Patrick jump in. You ready to go, Patrick?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Ray. And thanks again for coming on, John.
Of course, Patrick. Thanks again, Ray.
Now, going back in time a little bit, hopping in the time machine, I read that just 2 weeks into your MMA training was when you started working with Dennis Hallman.
Yeah.
What's it been like training with a legend like Superman?
It was really unreal because it's hard to explain because he is such a high level, high talent. Like, his knowledge base is unreal. So, like, just how much I was learning, and you could see my progression as a fighter, like how he's made me better. You got all these MMA gyms around here in Washington, and they don't produce good fighters, and he produces great fighters. And he himself is a great fighter, and like just being able to come in every day and know what I'm learning works. To know what I'm learning will make me a strong fighter was what I appreciated and I liked the most. Because I mean, you can go in those karate gyms and they're telling you all these moves and they'll work, and then you go in a fight and it doesn't work. Whereas, like, when I'm with Dennis, he shows a move, the move works. Because he's done it. And that's what I appreciate. I appreciate people that actually are in the combat and understand what works. That's why I don't like a lot of coaches that don't fight, because they don't really understand. They can try to show me all this technique, all these cool moves, but if they've never done it in a fight, it might not work. That's why I work with guys that truly fight and are legends in the sport, like Dennis Hallman and my Muay Thai instructor. He's an S1 champion. He's a multiple PABA boxing champion. He's fought for the WBO, the WBA multiple times. The dude's legit, and he only shows me things that he does in a fight. He doesn't show me all this fancy stuff. So I just feel lucky more than anything, like, to have these guys in my backyard. Like, it's pretty unreal to me.
Yeah, that's got to be awesome, and definitely a great place to build your base for MMA training. Now, you said you had taken you started fighting just 3 months into your training.
Yeah.
What prompted you to start fighting so early?
Dennis, man, he's one of those guys. He doesn't pressure people, but he sees talent in people, and what our gym is we're a fighting gym. People only pay $20 to go to our gym, and we ask everybody that comes in if they want to fight, kind of deal. That's what we want. We want fighters. He's not into making a ton of money from his gym and doing the cardio kickboxing and crap like that. Like, it's a real fighter's gym. So he just saw it in me that I could compete, and I told him I like competing. So he just asked me, and I said, yeah,
Yeah, very cool. Now, like you said, you started your career 14-1 as an amateur, and then you got off to a 2-0 professional start before a 2-year layoff. Can you tell us the reason behind the layoff?
Yeah, just work, man. Working full time, trying to support myself. It's still unreal to me that I'm in the UFC and this is my job. Like, before, I did it for fun. I fought for fun. I wanted to go pro. I wanted to compete at high levels, but, like, I never really thought I'd make it. So I had to take care of myself, and I was working construction, and I worked nights half the time. Like, every 6 months I'd work nights. So I'd have half a year where I could fight and then half a year where I couldn't, because it was just too hard for me to try to train and fight when I was working nights. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, I know those graveyard shifts can definitely take a toll on themselves. To just you're not on the circadian rhythm, and that just throws your body for a loop.
Yep.
Now, in your fight back after that layoff, you fought Justin Frado, and you looked really good in that fight. Boxing and head movement was tight. You were working the triangle armbar before you finally got the triangle choke. How did it feel to perform so well after all that time off?
It's just experience and training. Like I said, we train hard at Dennis's. You know, we beat on each other pretty bad, and like everyone always says, if you make training a war, the fight's easy. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. And that's what Dennis has said about me. I don't like to brag about myself. I never talk about myself, but Dennis says this, you know, he calls it fight IQ. And people that take long layoffs and they're like, it's like they're out of the game and they got to reboot. Whereas like I don't have to reboot because I have a high fight IQ, he says. And that's just what keeps me in the game. You know, I don't lose anything. Everything's always in my head and the muscle memory's always there. And it's not like I ever fall behind. Like I stay where I'm at and then I go ahead and I stay where I'm at and I go ahead.
Yeah, that's definitely evidence in your fight. You know, you definitely don't see any regression at any point. And you know, evidence of that fact is your next fight. You're fighting Scott Jorgensen coming up in December. And I think that's just kind of a testament to your skill set, because certainly the UFC wouldn't be setting you up with guys like Scott Jorgensen, especially, you know, coming off the unfortunate situation with the Goito fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I feel lucky. I think they really see something in me, you know, and they appreciate how I fight, kind of deal, you know. I believe Peg, me, and TJ will be the only ones that have 4 fights from the show in the UFC because, you know, they know we like to fight and they know we put on a show. A lot of those guys have only fought once since then, you know. And it's exciting. Like, when I beat Peg, you know, I really didn't know where my career was going to go. I figured they would just keep me at low ranks, and then they offered me Ivan Menjivar. I was dumbfounded. I'm like, really? You just gave me Ivan Menjivar? How amazing! And then, you know, things didn't end exactly how I wanted in that fight. But, you know, they saw how great of a fight it was, and you know, then they wanted to work me back up, and that's why they were going to have me fight Bloodworth. And he unfortunately got hurt, and that's why Goito took the fight short notice. And then they still see it, man. They just see it, and they know Scott's super tough. And that's what Sean told me. He's like, man, we really like you, and we want you to stay, but you got to win your next fight. And he goes, and it's going to be a super tough guy. And I'm like, whatever, man. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm in the UFC, is to fight the best. You know, I don't want to be known as, you know, a gatekeeper or, you know, one of those guys. I want to fight the best and beat the best. And you don't get any better than Scott Jorgensen.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know what? In spite of, you know, the 1-2 current record in the UFC, you could very easily be 3-0. I mean, you had Menjivar hurt. You were looking real good in that fight before the finish. And of course, you know, we all saw the debacle that was the Eric Perez fight. So, you know, you could easily be 3-0. And you know, I think it'll be a good fight with Young Guns. Do you have any particular area you're training on for that fight?
I always work my wrestling. I know his wrestling is going to be better than mine. You know, I still got years ahead of me in my wrestling because, I mean, I never had that strict wrestling competition like he did. So his wrestling has progressed before mine. So I'm still evolving in my wrestling. But we're just working secret stuff off my back and on my feet to make sure that if it goes down, I get back up or I keep it up on my feet, you know. So that's pretty much what the game plan is going to be. It's just let's hope he bangs it out with me. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we both admit that he has the skill to keep me down, but I mean, we're working on things to make sure he can't.
Excellent. Now, would you say, having said that, do you think you're a bigger threat striking or grappling?
Honestly, I think I'm a bigger threat in both areas. You know, I think I attack real hard from my back, which a lot of people don't for some reason against Scott. They just like let him get up on him and start pounding him down, whereas like I'm attacking so much that he won't want to strike because then it'll just open up for something else because I'm just pretty slick and I attack real fast off my back. And then by striking, you know, it's too crisp. I'm longer. I have good movement and I'm not afraid to be in the pocket. You know, if you see my fights, I don't throw a wild. There's not a single wild punch. I try to be as accurate as I can, you know, and that's a testament to all the boxing that I'm doing. And, I think I'm a danger there. You know, I train with with such big, heavy, strong guys too, like with Dennis Holman, Brad Blackburn, Benji Raddick, those guys that I spar hard with them. I'm in the pocket exchanging with these guys. And I feel when I go into a fight with, anyone in my weight class, no one's going to hit me that hard. No one can hit me that hard. And so I have like no fear of them hitting me. And I take one to give one right back. That'll be harder than theirs. It's just my little theory on fighting, you know. Or I might just trick myself into believing that.
No, you know what? I gotta say honestly, and I'm not blowing smoke, but I really do feel like you have some of the best boxing in the 135 division in the UFC, and really, out of the majority of fighters I've seen in MMA, your head movement is just at a level where you don't see very many fighters at these days. So I definitely would be inclined to agree that you've got something good going on there with the camp you're at.
I appreciate that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ray, I know you wanted to get back in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, John, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. We were looking forward to getting you on the show when you said you were going to come on. So just want to say a big thank you.
No, of course. I'm glad to come on. I love talking to you guys. I love having interviews, letting people learn more about me. You know, you guys help my fan base out and people get to know me. So I appreciate it just as much.
Well, thank you. Before we let you go, John, I'd like to give you a chance to have a shout out. So shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and also let people know about your Facebook and Twitter as well.
Of course. Well, you guys can obviously follow me at UFC Prince Albert. Facebook, it's John Bryan Albert. And then, of course, I'd like to thank my teammates and coach Dennis Hallman and Sauhin Svisak and strength and conditioning coach Ollie Crosby. Those guys are amazing. They're making me a beast. And obviously my new sponsor at New Leaf Hyperbarics, you know, they're really taking me to the next level. I mean, we call it the unfair advantage because, you know, I feel like a beast. And I'd also like to thank Comic Oasis for always working with me. I mean, I'm a big nerd. I love comics, and you know, they're a big part of my sponsorship. And you know, they love to represent me, and I like to represent them. So it's really cool.
Well, John, we really appreciate you coming on, and we wish you all the luck for your next fight.
Yeah, I hope I put on a good one for you guys.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, John, and good luck in December, bud.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate it.
See you later, mate.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.
And that was the UFC bantamweight Prince John Albert. A really nice guy.
Well, it was definitely great to get in touch with John.
Yeah, he was great to speak to. He's had a bit of a tough run in the UFC, really. I mean, that last fight he had, it was such an exciting fight, and to hear that it was hard to see the exact details. I knew